as I'm trying to understand what this actually means to me. Image, and as a contract, then if I'm being asked to sign it, what is it? So what's being transferred? So the word declaration suggests that it is a single, or is intended to be treated as a single party contract, which is that me as a landowner, ends up being a party of both sides of the contract, with me as a landowner and me as an RA member. Obviously, there's intended to be some sort of transfer of rights from me to me, and that's what I'm trying to draft out. So this is me as a landowner. I own my property rights to date. This declaration is the contract, and obviously this is an attempt to convince me that I should transfer some rights into myself as a member of RE, thereby transferring any rights, my landowner rights, into some entity that would be called, or is represented as, RERA, so that bylaws can be used to transfer those rights under the control of the RERA board. So anyway, so that's what I think this is in terms of its language. So if I bounce back to look at the language of declaration, so obviously they're planning to file this as a deed. And if we go down here and we look at the declarations, well, the first thing that gives me particular concern is, what in the world does submission of property mean? The property within association will be held, sold, conveyed, transferred, leased, subleased, and occupied subject to the following covenants, conditions, restrictions, and easements, which will run with the land and which will be binding upon and endure the benefit of all parties having right, title, or interest in the property or any portion thereof, their heirs, personal representatives, successors, and assigns. I'm sorry, I really don't think this is rational, because, okay, what am I transferring? Or is this declaration saying I need to transfer my property ownership? And the point would be, I'm really not willing to transfer any quitclaim deeds to my property or any rights associated with my property to anybody, period. Even though it might be on the surface from myself to myself. The point is, whether or not I'm correct in this interpretation, I don't want to show up in court, saying, okay, well, Mark, you transferred, these rights to somebody else. And insofar this is ambiguous, it's not rational for me to voluntarily sign any declaration of this, because it's so legally ambiguous that it's a recipe for problems. First point would be signing anything that says I'm transferring property to somebody else clouds my title, which is really a no-no. Second point would be, after the rights are transferred, the landowner, i.e. me, and every one of my neighbors could only receive the rights that the RERA board decides to give us back within the COII legal structure. This is obviously unacceptable. And then the COII statutes mandate that an association, and by the way, this is why the statute mandates that, number one, the association owns the property, because only if they own it can they retain rights. And second, that implicitly that the association has to be formed before conveyance to a first purchaser. So obviously it has to be formed before it can own anything. So this is the only way that a organization like a homeowners association can legally and appropriately retain rights. So this declaration is a band-aid or a legal abomination that's trying to overcome these explicit restrictions to the formation of COII. Bottom line is that these requirements that are required by law assure that the association has the legal authority to withhold the rights prior to conveyance, or so that any purchaser of a property within a homeowners association, knows what they're getting. The road association is retroactively asking us to transfer landowner rights into the road association so that the road association board can give some back via bylaws. Now, the problem is that this assures perpetual litigation in at least 3 situations. Number 1, it establishes a legal basis for the road association to claim the property rights of any signatory. So if you were silly enough to sign it, it means that you're going to be in conflict and be asking the road association for what you can do on your own property. Number 2, the fact that this document is ridiculously unclear to any reader means that we'll spend God knows how much time arguing about what it actually says. It's unclear who the parties are, what rights are transferred, except quote-unquote all, including actual potentially ownership of our property to the road association, which is ridiculous. And third is that any litigation is guaranteed when the road association attempts to enforce quote-unquote unassigned property rights on any person who is smart enough not to sign the agreement. Again, this is back to that private contract thing, which is anybody who doesn't sign the contract hasn't assigned any rights to the road association. So this is why we should just say no. I want to point out that I'm not an attorney, so please don't accept this information as legal advice. But when you do talk to your attorney, I suggest you raise the points of the presentation as talking points so that you can guide the discussion to the specific points of law that I believe will help your attorney and you focus on your best interest. Your attorney should be able to quickly validate or reject the validity of the legal points that I've raised in this presentation, and hopefully this will save you some time and money.